From Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal's bitter off-cage betrayal.
So, I don't anticipate him ever fighting me in his career. He will definitely walk away from the sport before ever fighting me because he knows what will happen. I'll rearrange his face.
To Jon Jones being accused of crossing lines with other fighters' wives behind the scenes.
Hold on.
These are the 15 UFC fighters who slept with other fighters' wives, and the scandals will blow your mind. 1. Mike Perry. Mike Perry has always been one of those fighters who brings chaos wherever he goes. Whether it's inside the cage or out in the world, there's always drama when he's involved. A lot of people started whispering behind the scenes that Perry might have hooked up with a teammate's girlfriend. These rumors started when he was switching between different gyms and training camps, from Florida to Albuquerque. It wasn't just the fighting that got messy. It was his personal life, too. No one ever confirmed the name of the girl, but many believed it because Perry already had a reputation for not respecting boundaries. Things in his personal life weren't any better. He was married to Danielle Nickerson, who trained with him and even helped corner him during his fights. But their relationship fell apart badly. Danielle later accused him of abusive behavior and some really disturbing things behind closed doors. Not long after the split, Perry started dating a woman named Latori Gonzalez. This raised even more eyebrows because she started cornering his fights too, except she had no MMA experience at all. It looked more like a reality show than a professional fight corner. Mike Perry admitted in interviews that he cheated during his marriage and that he was emotionally messed up at the time. That didn't really help his case. Over time, he got into fights outside of clubs, made angry social media posts, and just kept adding fuel to the fire. A lot of people in the fight world began believing the rumors that he had crossed the line with a teammate's girl. Even though nobody ever came forward with real proof, the story stuck to him like glue. 2. Colby Covington. Colby Covington was once really close friends with Jorge Masvidal. They were not just teammates at American Top Team. They were roommates, training partners, and almost like brothers. But all of that changed when Colby started playing the bad guy character in MMA, calling himself Chaos and talking trash about other fighters, including his own teammates. That's when things between him and Masvidal started going downhill fast.
So, I don't anticipate him ever fighting me in his career. He will definitely walk away from the sport before ever fighting me because he knows what will happen. I'll rearrange his face.
In interviews, Masvidal dropped a bomb. He said Colby had been talking to one of his ex-girlfriends behind his back. According to Masvidal, while Colby was acting like a good friend on the surface, he was secretly sliding into conversations with the girl Jorge had been dating. He didn't give her name, but fans started guessing who it might be. Some thought it was a model Jorge had been with for a short time. Others believed it could have been a casual fling that Colby got involved in after they broke up. Either way, Masvidal saw it as betrayal. Masvidal went off in interviews, saying stuff like, "This dude used my coach, my team, and my life, then turned around and messed with my girl." The whole thing turned into one of the most intense and personal rivalries the UFC has ever seen. When they finally faced off at UFC 272, the fight was full of real hatred. Colby ended up dominating Masvidal, but the bad blood didn't stop after the bell. A few weeks later, things took a wild turn outside the octagon. Masvidal allegedly waited for Colby outside a Miami restaurant and sucker punched him. Reports say Colby even lost a tooth in the attack. Masvidal ended up facing criminal charges for the assault. That just showed how deep the betrayal had cut and how real the beef was between them. 3. Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal is no stranger to drama, and after his huge fallout with Colby Covington, the gossip mill started turning fast. Everyone knows that Masvidal accused Colby of messing with his ex-girlfriend, and that made their friendship explode. But what came next was even crazier. Rumors started flying that Masvidal got payback in his own savage way. Word around gyms in Florida was that Masvidal may have hooked up with someone close to Colby, like a casual girlfriend or even a family friend. There's no real proof, no photos or texts, but the MMA world loves its rumors. And when you look at how personal their beef got, it's not hard to imagine Masvidal crossing the line for revenge.
He didn't even want to sign a contract, man. And he's talking about fake fighters and this and that. He's always been the fakest motherfucker ever.
Jorge never confirmed the rumor. He didn't deny it either. Instead, he just stayed quiet or laughed it off whenever interviewers tried to ask. What we do know is that he was mad, like really mad. He straight up said he was out for revenge, not just in the octagon, but in real life too. That's why no one was surprised when things went from bad to worse. A few weeks after their fight at UFC 272, Jorge allegedly waited outside a fancy restaurant in Miami called Poppy Steak, wearing a hoodie and mask. He ran up and punched Colby right in the face. Reports said Colby lost a tooth from the hit. Jorge ended up getting charged with felony battery, and the case got tons of attention. Colby went around saying Jorge was obsessed with him, jealous, and couldn't move on. Meanwhile, Jorge clapped back with things like, "You don't talk about someone's family and expect to walk free in the streets." Their fight had left the cage and gone full-on street war. Whether or not Jorge actually hooked up with someone Colby cared about, the rumor only made things uglier. 4. Jon Jones. Jon Jones is probably one of the most talented fighters to ever step into the UFC. He was a champion at a young age, beating legends and making it look easy. But while Jon was winning fights inside the cage, his life outside of it was full of chaos. Everyone knew Jon had problems with partying, but the real drama was the stuff people whispered behind the scenes. While there's no proof that he slept with another fighter's wife, lots of MMA insiders believed he crossed the line with women close to other fighters and coaches. Jon was in a long relationship with Jessie Moses, and they had kids together. On social media, it looked like a happy family. But Jon himself admitted he cheated multiple times and lived a messed up double life. In 2021, things got really bad. During UFC's Hall of Fame weekend in Las Vegas, Jon got arrested for domestic violence. Jessie had a bloody lip, and the police report said Jon had been drunk and violent. That moment showed how far his personal life had fallen apart. But that wasn't even the first time Jon got into trouble. Back in 2015, before a title fight, he tested positive for cocaine. Then there was the time he crashed a rental car in a hit and run. He hit a pregnant woman, ran away from the scene.
I was going on the green light, going that way, and he was running the red light. I remember seeing him, and he kept going. He just hit me.
Came back just to grab some money from the car and disappeared again. Inside the car, police found weed and condoms.
The fighter allegedly ran a red light while driving a rented Buick SUV last month at Wantabo and Southern. Police say the accident ignited a three-car collision. The woman you just saw was the pregnant victim. Vanessa Sonnenberg, she suffered a broken.
All of this added to his wild party boy image. Strippers, drugs, alcohol, and nonstop chaos. People in MMA started to talk. Some fighters said they didn't want to train with Jon because he was disrespectful outside the cage. Others hinted that he might have been hooking up with women connected to coaches or other fighters. And just when you think things couldn't get more awkward in the MMA world, the next fighter stirred up drama by getting way too close to someone his coach had just broken up with. What happened next had the whole gym buzzing. Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa, also known as the Eraser, is famous for his shredded body and hilarious, chaotic social media posts. But behind the muscles and memes, there's a juicy rumor that followed him around the MMA world, especially back in Brazil. People say that when Paulo was still training in local gyms like Team Baracha, he got involved with a woman who had just broken up with one of his coaches. Sounds messy already, right? Well, it gets worse. The coach was supposedly still not over her, and when Costa started getting close to her, it caused a ton of awkward tension at the gym.
How tight the entire team was. That I told everybody, I forgot what fight, but it was like a UFC.
Now, technically, the woman was single when they started hanging out. But in the world of MMA teams, there's a kind of unspoken rule. You don't mess with someone your coach or teammate seriously dated. That's just asking for drama. But Costa has always been known as a flashy, confident guy who does what he wants. So people believe that he went for it anyway, knowing it might upset others. Some fighters from that gym even started picking sides because the vibe between Costa and the coach got super weird. He never talked about it publicly, but many fans believe this drama is one of the reasons Costa ended up leaving his Brazilian training setup and going international. Once the story got around, it became one of those open secrets. Everybody kind of knew about it, but no one would say it out loud in interviews. On top of that, Paulo's behavior on social media just made the rumors even more believable. He flirts with female fans and even other fighters online. He posts weird videos, like that one where he talked about drinking secret juice, and says crazy stuff that always makes people raise their eyebrows. 6. Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz was one of the biggest stars when the UFC was still growing. Back then, he had this cocky bad boy attitude that made fans either love him or hate him. But while he was making waves in the octagon, there were tons of whispers that he was stirring up trouble outside of it, especially with other fighters' girlfriends. The rumor was that Tito had a habit of getting a little too friendly at UFC events, backstage areas, and even at the gym. Fighters said he was always hanging around their girls, flirting or acting like he was the alpha in the room. No specific names were ever dropped, but some people said that even fights that happened in the cage started because of personal beef about women. One anonymous UFC fighter once said in an interview that Tito had a habit of hovering near guys' girlfriends and acting like he owned the place. He'd do it with a smile too, like it was a game. Even if nothing actually happened, that kind of behavior made things super awkward and left a bad taste with a lot of fighters. Then there was his super public relationship with adult film star Jenna Jameson. That relationship took everything to a whole new level. Jenna was a huge celebrity, and when she showed up at UFC events with Tito, things got tense. Some of the other fighters' wives and girlfriends didn't like how she acted, and there were reports of drama behind the scenes.
Actually, we were never married, but we were together for a very long time. I always called him my husband. So.
Is it not a nice breakup?
Yeah, I would say that we've...
Later, when Tito and Jenna's relationship got toxic, and she accused him of abuse, which he denied, it brought all the old rumors back up. 7. Frank Trigg. Frank Trigg might not be the most famous UFC fighter ever, but his name still pops up a lot, especially when people talk about behind-the-scenes drama in MMA. Even though his fight career wasn't filled with huge titles or crazy knockouts, his personal life was full of gossip and awkward stories. A lot of fighters and people in the MMA world whispered that Trigg had a bad habit of getting too close to other fighters' girlfriends or wives. He spent a lot of time coaching and doing commentary, which meant he was always around gyms and events. And apparently, that's where a lot of these uncomfortable situations happened. One of the stories people talked about was how Trigg was helping train a young fighter, and not long after, he was spotted getting a little too cozy with the guy's ex-girlfriend. Even though she wasn't with the fighter anymore, it still made things weird at the gym, and a lot of people felt like he crossed a line. There was also a rumor that he had a short fling with a woman who was dating a well-known MMA reporter. That story never made headlines, but people in the community were definitely talking about it. Things didn't stop there. Trigg also had a lot of messy stuff going on in his own relationships. He went through public fights with some of his exes, including custody battles and money issues. In 2009, a woman he had dated accused him of being emotionally abusive. Nothing ever went to court, but it added to the feeling that Trigg might not be the nicest guy behind closed doors. His reputation for being overly confident, even cocky, didn't help either. Some fighters straight up said they didn't trust him around their girlfriends or families. 8. War Machine. War Machine, whose real name is Jonathan Koppenhaver, had one of the scariest and most disturbing stories in all of MMA history. He used to fight in the UFC and Bellator, and while he was never a champion, he was known for being tough and aggressive. But behind all that, he had a dark side that no one saw coming. His relationship with adult film star Christy Mack was full of toxic behavior. People close to them said War Machine was jealous all the time and always thought she was cheating on him, even when she wasn't. He'd get mad if another guy even liked her Instagram photo or smiled at her in public. He was the kind of guy who couldn't handle anyone else being around his girlfriend. He started getting controlling, possessive, and scary. Friends of Christy said he would freak out over the smallest things and accuse her of being unfaithful all the time. And even though things were clearly getting worse, no one expected what happened next. In 2014, everything exploded. War Machine showed up at Christy Mack's house out of nowhere and found her with another man. What happened next was horrifying. He beat her so badly, she almost died. He broke 18 bones in her face, knocked out her teeth, and fractured her ribs.
Continuing to follow the latest developments in the trial of former MMA fighter War Machine, his ex-girlfriend and porn star Christy Mack was on the stand testifying all day today. That testimony just wrapped up about an hour ago. It was the second day that she was on the witness stand.
He even ruptured her liver. He didn't stop there. He also attacked the other guy and left both of them bloodied and unconscious. The whole thing was like something out of a horror movie. It shocked the entire MMA world. After the attack, War Machine ran from the police, but they caught him later. In 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison with a chance for parole after 36 years. During the trial, everyone learned how violent paranoid, and obsessed he had become. His jealousy over Christie's past, especially her connections to other men and fighters, had totally taken over his mind. That story was dark, but not every scandal ends in violence. Sometimes, it's the sneaky betrayals at the gym that shake things up. The next fighter caused so much drama over an ex, it forced a teammate to walk away for good. 9. Josh Koscheck. Josh Koscheck was one of those fighters who came into the UFC and instantly made people either love him or hate him. He was loud, super confident, and always trash-talking. Basically, the perfect bad guy character from season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. But what most people didn't see was the chaos he caused behind closed doors. Koscheck trained at the American Kickboxing Academy, aka one of the biggest gyms in MMA. But while he was learning how to fight, he was also breaking a bunch of unspoken gym rules. Word started going around that Koscheck was hooking up with ex-girlfriends of his own teammates, and even a few women who worked at the gym.
I was in San Jose, it was because of the training partners. And midway in my career, taking a fight and not having a camp put together was definitely a big risk.
The biggest drama was when one fighter, who's never been named publicly, left the gym completely. Why? Because Koscheck had been messaging and apparently getting together with his ex-girlfriend. The worst part? She was still hanging around the gym, which made things super uncomfortable for everyone. People at AKA started seeing Koscheck as someone who didn't respect boundaries. In a place where fighters are supposed to be like family, messing with someone's ex is seen as a huge betrayal. His attitude didn't help either. Koscheck was always cocky, loud, and didn't care much about keeping peace with his teammates. Eventually, he left AKA in 2010. He told people it was because of personal differences, but fighters inside the gym said it was really because of all the personal drama he caused. He made training uncomfortable for others, and most people just got tired of dealing with his drama. After that, Koscheck's name kept coming up whenever people talked about fighters who broke team loyalty. Other gyms were even hesitant to let him in because they knew he brought trouble, especially when women were involved. 10. Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was one of the first big names in MMA and also a major star in pro wrestling. People called him the world's most dangerous man, and back in the late 90s, he really lived up to it, both in the ring and outside of it. He fought in the UFC, then jumped to WWF, now WWE, and even bounced between the two. But while fans saw him as a tough guy who didn't back down from a fight, others in the locker room were whispering about how he didn't play by the rules, especially when it came to women. There were strong rumors that Ken got involved with the girlfriend of another wrestler while he was working with WWF. People said she was someone who worked backstage and was already dating someone else when Ken started getting close to her.
To me, so I made it heard. I made him make sure he heard me, and that it was disrespectful. And that's how that whole thing started with me and Tito Ortiz.
The timeline was messy, and even though no names were ever dropped publicly, it caused some serious tension. In wrestling and MMA, there's this thing called locker room code. Basically, don't mess with your teammate's girl even if they've broken up. But it seemed like Ken didn't really care about that rule. Even in the MMA world, people from his fight team, the Lion's Den, said similar things. Some said he flirted with women who were dating or had dated his teammates. It didn't happen out in the open, but there were always quiet talks about how Ken blurred the line between personal and professional. It didn't help that his own brother, Frank Shamrock, came out and said that Ken was full of ego and always wanted to be in control. That just made more people believe the rumors about him playing dirty behind the scenes. 11. BJ Penn. BJ Penn was once one of the most respected and naturally talented fighters in the UFC. They called him the Prodigy because he had crazy skills and won belts in both the lightweight and welterweight divisions. At his peak, people thought he was unbeatable. But as time went on, it wasn't his fights that made the headlines. It was his out-of-control personal life. Things started going downhill, and by 2019, everything exploded publicly. That year, the mother of his children filed a restraining order against him. She said BJ had been abusive for years, physically, emotionally, and even sexually. The court documents were shocking. She claimed he assaulted her in front of their daughter, used drugs and alcohol, and threatened to hurt her family. She also said he was super controlling and aggressive. The judge granted the restraining order for 3 years, which doesn't happen in Hawaii, unless things are really serious. BJ denied everything, but his reputation took a huge hit.
You have to take it! Oh my God.
Stop it, guys.
Hey, come on.
Here, like over. Punch again, punch again.
Stop. Keep on.
Even before all that, people in MMA had been talking about BJ's bad behavior. There were tons of stories from gyms and fight camps about how he'd act inappropriately, especially around other fighters' girlfriends. He was known to flirt too much, even cross lines at parties or during training. One rumor said he hooked up with another fighter's ex-girlfriend, and that fighter ended up leaving the gym for good. Another story from one of his old gyms claimed BJ was banned after getting involved with a coach's girlfriend. These weren't official reports, but the fact that so many different people told similar stories made the rumors stick. BJ also had a wild party lifestyle. He would drink a lot, get into fights in public, and show up at events with different women, some of whom were involved in MMA circles. In 2015, a video came out showing him fighting a bouncer outside a strip club. Then in 2020, he was caught fighting in the street again after reportedly harassing a woman. It felt like every year there was another BJ Penn drama that had nothing to do with fighting. 12. Travis Browne. Travis Browne used to be known for being a powerful heavyweight in the UFC, but in 2015, people started talking about him for a whole different reason. At the time, he was married to a fitness model named Jenna Renee Webb. Everything seemed normal until rumors started going around that Travis was secretly dating Ronda Rousey, who was, back then, the biggest female star in UFC history. The problem? He was still married when the news came out. Things exploded when Jenna posted cryptic messages online and then shared photos of bruises on her body. She accused Travis of abusing her both physically and emotionally, and also said he had been cheating on her with Ronda the entire time. Her posts were angry and heartbreaking. One message went viral where she said, "When people cheat, they don't cheat on you, they cheat themselves. Ronda, you can have him." That really hit people hard. The UFC took things seriously and suspended Travis while they did an internal investigation into the abuse claims. But after a while, they said the evidence wasn't strong enough and allowed him back. Still, fans were totally split. Some believed Jenna right away, especially because of the photos and how openly she talked about everything on social media. Others defended Travis and said maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Even after the divorce was over, Jenna didn't stop calling them out. She posted about it many times, making sure people didn't forget what had happened. Meanwhile, Travis and Ronda just kept going with their relationship like nothing was wrong. They eventually got married in 2017, ignoring all the drama and hate from the outside world. But for a lot of MMA fans, things didn't sit right. Many believed Travis had completely betrayed his wife, and that Ronda supported him through it, even when he was being accused of something so serious. And speaking of complicated love triangles, the next chapter involves one of the UFC's biggest female stars, who found herself at the center of a major scandal just by standing by her man. 13. Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was once seen as the queen of MMA. She was strong, confident, and a role model for so many girls who wanted to get into fighting. But in 2015, her image took a major hit when news broke that she was dating Travis Browne. The reason everyone was shocked? Travis was still married at the time, and his wife, Jenna Renee Webb, had just accused him of abuse. It looked really bad for Ronda. Fans expected her to stand up against domestic violence, not stand next to a guy who had been accused of it. What made it worse was the timing. Ronda and Travis were seen together in public only a short time after Jenna shared photos of her bruises and spoke out online. It was like Ronda didn't care. When she was asked about the whole situation in an interview with ESPN, she said something that made a lot of people even more upset. Ronda said, "I know the truth. I've known Travis for a long time. I've seen how he treats people around him, and I believe him." For people who had looked up to her, especially abuse survivors, this felt like a huge betrayal. Instead of taking a stand or even just staying quiet until more facts came out, Ronda chose to support Travis openly. It made fans question whether she was really the strong role model they thought she was. On one hand, she was fighting in the cage and inspiring women to be tough and fearless. But on the other hand, she was in a relationship that started with tons of controversy and pain for another woman. Eventually, Ronda and Travis got married in 2017 and had a baby girl in 2021. These days, they keep things pretty private, and most people don't hear much about them unless it's related to Ronda's WWE appearances. 14. Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen is one of those fighters who talked almost as much as he fought. In fact, he probably became more famous for his words than for his wins. He had this way of trash talking that was funny, smart, and sometimes just plain wild. He'd say anything to hype up a fight or get under someone's skin. But after a while, people started wondering if some of the things he said were more than just jokes. Like during his feud with Anderson Silva, Chael said, "I've got a picture of Anderson Silva's wife on the mantle. She's cooking me a steak wearing nothing but an apron." That was a line that made people stop and say, "Wait, what?"
What was one thing he said that really, really annoyed you?
Primeiro ele falou da minha mulher. Ele falou, não, eu vou entrar na casa dele.
Slap his wife on the ass if she doesn't make me a steak medium rare. Just the way.
It didn't stop there. In another interview, he said, "I don't fight married guys because I don't like hitting a man who has already had everything taken from him." He always said these things with a smirk, like he was playing a character. But that's what made it tricky. No one could tell if he was completely joking or if he was actually throwing out real dirt. Some fans thought it was hilarious, but others felt like he crossed the line by bringing up people's wives and families. Over time, rumors started that maybe Chael wasn't just making things up. Maybe he actually did get involved with someone's partner behind the scenes. He never named names or confirmed anything, but his "I know more than you" attitude made people suspicious. And when fighters he insulted refused to shake his hand or looked super angry in real life, it just made the rumors feel more real. 15. Anthony Rumble Johnson. Anthony Rumble Johnson was one of the most feared fighters in the UFC. When he hit people, they didn't just fall, they collapsed. He was strong, fast, and scary inside the cage. But outside the cage, things weren't as impressive. Rumble had a troubled personal life that often made headlines for all the wrong reasons. People started to see that behind the powerful knockouts was someone who might have had serious problems when it came to how he treated women. There were several times when Rumble got in trouble with the law. He was arrested more than once for things related to domestic violence. In one case, his ex-girlfriend said he slammed her to the ground and was emotionally controlling. Other reports said he even stayed aggressive toward women he had already broken up with. All this led to people in the MMA world talking quietly about how he acted behind closed doors. Some even said they were scared to be around him outside of training. Then there were more personal rumors, ones that involved the gym and other fighters. During his time at Black Zillions, and when he trained in Colorado and Florida, there were whispers that he was getting involved with women who were already connected to other fighters or coaches. One rumor said he started dating a coach's ex, and it caused a lot of tension in the gym. Another story claimed a sparring partner left the team completely because of girl drama involving Rumble. Nothing was ever confirmed, but in places like MMA gyms, even whispers can change everything. Rumble didn't help his image much either. He liked posting shirtless selfies and writing flirty captions, sometimes even tagging or replying to women in the MMA scene. It gave off this vibe that he didn't care if someone was already taken. Because of this, many people believed the rumors, even without proof. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe for more crazy MMA stories and let us know in the comments which fighter's drama shocked you the most.